The first thing I noticed wasn't the cold. It was her voice. Low, calm, a little tired. Like someone who'd learned how to hide everything she wanted to say behind half a smile. "Thanks for coming," she said, arms folded as if the draft was just an excuse. The house was quiet, the kind that hums with old furniture and too much memory. I stepped inside, shaking the rain off my jacket. She'd left the front door open longer than needed, watching me like she wasn't sure if she wanted help or company. The heater was in the corner of the living room. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish and something floral. Her scent probably subtle, not sweet. I knelt to unscrew the panel, and she hovered nearby, pretending to check her phone. "Cold night," I said. "Colder than usual," she answered, then looked at me. Really looked. Her name was Maya. Mid-40s, maybe. Her hair was tied up in that effortless way that makes it worse somehow, because it means she didn't even try. There was a confidence in her stillness, but underneath it, a kind of fragility, like something could break if you said the wrong thing too kindly. I fiddled with the heater's wires. She leaned over to hand me a flashlight, her bracelet sliding down her wrist. The metal brushed my knuckles, not hard enough to be intentional, not soft enough to ignore. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. My pulse jumped, ridiculous as it sounds. The heater clicked, stuttered, then gave a low hum. Warmth began to crawl through the vents, slow and steady. She smiled small, private. "You're better than the last guy." "I try," I said, half grinning, still crouched on the floor. She was close now, standing over me, her knees almost touching my shoulder. I could feel the shift of her weight, the faint scent of her shampoo, when she leaned in to check the control panel. I glanced up, mistake. Her eyes caught mine, steady, unguarded for once. The silence between us thickened, not uncomfortable, just alive. "You do this often?" she asked softly. "Fix heaters." "Not really." "What then?" I hesitated. "Mostly paint. Odd jobs. Trying to figure things out." She nodded slowly, as if she knew what that meant. "That doesn't go away, you know. The figuring out part." Her voice carried something else now. Not advice, not pity. Just truth. I stood up too close. We both noticed. The hum of the heater filled the space that words couldn't. "Feels warmer already," I said, trying to break it. "Maybe," she said. Her lips curled at the corner. "Or maybe it's just us." It wasn't flirtatious, not exactly. It was heavier than that. The kind of thing said before you realize you've said it. Her cheeks colored just slightly, and she turned away, brushing imaginary dust off the mantel. I should have laughed it off, made a joke, grabbed my tools. Instead, I just stood there, watching the faint steam of her breath fade in the warm air. The heater clicked again, a sharp sound in the quiet. Then came the thud of footsteps upstairs. She froze. I wasn't expecting. She started, but didn't finish. The footsteps paused, then continued toward the stairs. She looked at me, a small flicker of something. Worry? Longing? Crossing her face before she masked it with that same practiced calm. "Stay here," she whispered, already moving toward the hallway. The hum of the heater filled the silence she left behind, steady and warm, like a pulse that didn't know whether to race or stop. And for the first time that night, I wasn't sure which one I wanted either. She came back downstairs a few minutes later, hair slightly undone, voice steady again. Whoever had been upstairs hadn't followed. "Just my sister," she said quickly. "She's staying for a few days." I nodded, pretending not to notice how her tone didn't match her words. The kind of lie that wasn't about hiding something big, just about keeping things in their right boxes. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said, then softer, "You should probably send me the bill." Her eyes avoided mine. For a moment, I saw something that wasn't there before, a flicker of exhaustion under her calm. Not from the night, but from the kind of life that wears you thin in quiet ways. I started packing up my tools. "You live here alone?" She hesitated, then mostly. "Divorce was years ago. My daughter's at university." She said it lightly, but the word divorce hung in the air like a door half closed. I crouched to wind the cord, letting the silence breathe. I didn't want to ask more. I didn't want to make her explain things she'd already buried. When I stood, she was at the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. The light from the heater gave her skin a faint, warm glow. She didn't turn when she spoke. "You remind me of someone I used to know," she said. I laughed quietly. "That good or bad?" "Depends," she said. Then she looked over her shoulder, and the way her eyes met mine, I knew the answer wasn't simple. I should have left right then, but I didn't. I walked over, checking the heater again for no reason at all. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, faint, woody, like the edge of something familiar. "Thank you," she said, almost a whisper. Her hand brushed my sleeve, light but deliberate. I froze, not from shock, but from how natural it felt. "Any time," I said, though my voice came out lower than I meant it to. She didn't move her hand immediately. Her fingers lingered, barely touching, just tracing a line of fabric on my arm before she pulled back. "That's what I'm afraid of," she murmured. The words slipped out so softly, I almost thought I imagined them. She turned away again, wrapping her arms around herself. "You're young. You should be out somewhere, not fixing heaters for people who should know better." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I wasn't here for the job, not really, that I couldn't stop thinking about the way her voice softened when she forgot to guard it. But I didn't. Instead, I reached for my coat. She helped me with it, a small, simple gesture, her hand brushing the back of my neck as she lifted the collar. It sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Our eyes met one last time. No words, just a quiet understanding, the kind that hums beneath everything polite. Outside, the rain had stopped, but I stayed under the porch for a long minute before leaving, waiting for the air to cool, for my heartbeat to slow, and for the warmth of her touch to finally fade. It never did. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But a week later, I was standing on her porch again, a half-made excuse in my head about checking the wiring. She opened the door before I could knock twice. "The heater's fine," she said, half smiling. "So what broke this time?" I almost said me, but instead, just want to make sure it's holding steady. She didn't believe me. I could see it in the way her eyebrow lifted, half amusement, half warning. Still, she stepped aside. "Then you'd better come in." The living room was brighter this time. Afternoon light spilled across the floorboards. She'd been painting. A canvas leaned against the wall. Muted colors, all restraint and tension. "Yours?" I asked. She nodded, wiping a bit of paint off her hand with a towel. "Something I can't finish." "What's missing?" She met my eyes. "That's the problem." "I don't know." The silence stretched, warm and sharp. I knelt again beside the heater, pretending to work. I could feel her behind me, the soft sound of her breath, the quiet shift of her footsteps. When she crouched beside me, the space between us disappeared. Her sleeve brushed mine. My pulse picked up, fast, uneven. "You always this persistent?" she asked. "Only when something feels worth fixing." Her hand stilled. For a moment, she didn't move. Then, the buzz of a phone on the counter broke the moment. She stood too fast. "Sorry," she said, voice unsteady. The name on the screen glowed, David X. She silenced it, but not before the sound tightened the air between us. "Does he call often?" I asked quietly. She sighed. "He calls when he remembers I exist." The way she said it, half bitter, half tired, made me want to reach for her. But I didn't. Not yet. She turned back toward the canvas, tracing a line on the edge with her fingertip. "You shouldn't be here, Eli. Then tell me to leave." She didn't. The clock ticked. Outside, a car door slammed. Her sister's voice echoed faintly from the driveway. Panic flashed across her face. "Stay quiet," she whispered, stepping closer. "She can't see you here." Before I could move, she was right against me, hiding both of us behind the open door. Her hand gripped my arm, her breath warm against my cheek. Through the sliver of space, I saw her sister pass the hallway. A few seconds, no words, no movement, just her heartbeat pressed to mine, fast and uneven. Then silence again. She didn't step back right away. Her eyes lifted to mine, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in them. Her lips parted, almost speaking, almost not. "Eli," she whispered, voice shaking. I don't know which one of us moved first. Maybe both. But before anything could happen, her phone buzzed again. The sound snapped us apart. She turned away, breath uneven. "You should go," she said, barely audible. I hesitated at the door, wanting to say something, anything, but she wouldn't look at me. Still, as I stepped into the fading light, her reflection lingered in the window, hand pressed against the glass, as if holding me there just a second longer. I didn't hear from her for days. Then one evening, a message, heaters acting up again. If you're not busy, it was raining when I got there, harder this time. Her porch light flickered through the downpour. She opened the door before I could knock, like she'd been standing there, waiting. You came fast, she said. I was close by. A lie. She looked at me for a long second, the kind that's half question, half surrender. Then she stepped aside. You know where it is. The heater hummed perfectly fine, but I crouched anyway, tools in hand, pretending. She stood behind me again, the same way she had before. Too close. The faint scent of paint and rain on her skin. Your sister home? I asked. She left this morning. My heartbeat stuttered. So it's just us? Seems that way. Her voice was calm, but there was something brittle under it. I turned, and she was already watching me, arms crossed, but not defensive this time. Guarded, yes, but tired of being guarded. I shouldn't have called you, she said. I just didn't want to be alone tonight. I stood slowly. That's not a bad reason. It is, she whispered. For me, the words hung between us like heat itself. I took a step closer. She didn't move. The space between us was a heartbeat wide. You don't have to keep pretending this is just don't, she cut in, her voice sharp, trembling. You're too young to understand how messy this gets. Then let me messy, I said. I don't care what people think. You should. I can't. Something in her broke then, not visibly, just in the way her breath caught, the way her shoulders dropped as if she'd stopped fighting gravity. She looked away, blinking hard. My ex called again, she said quietly. He wanted to meet. I said no. I waited, not trusting my voice. Because I knew if I saw him, she went on, I'd spend the whole time thinking about you. The words hit me like a pulse of heat. She looked up then, regret and want tangled in her eyes. I moved closer, slow, deliberate, until my hand reached her face. My thumb brushed a strand of damp hair from her cheek. She didn't pull away. Her breath trembled against my skin. Eli, she whispered, almost warning. I know. My forehead rested against hers, the world shrinking to breath and silence, and the faint hum of the heater. Her hands came up, unsure, resting against my chest. Neither of us moved. Every second stretched thin, too fragile to touch, too late to stop. Then she exhaled, shaking her head slightly. This can't, but I didn't let her finish. I tilted closer, a breath away, one heartbeat from impossible. And then, from the porch, the sudden sound of a car, doors slamming. We both froze. Her eyes widened. He's here. And just like that, the warmth between us turned electric, charged, dangerous, as the doorknob outside began to turn. The door opened before either of us could move. A man stepped in, tall, rain-soaked, confident in the way people are when they've already decided they belong somewhere. Maya, he said. His tone was soft, but it carried that familiar authority of someone who used to be inside her life. David, she managed. Her voice was calm, but her hand was still pressed against my arm, frozen there until she realized it. She dropped it fast, stepping forward. I told you not to come by unannounced. I was nearby, he said, and you weren't answering. His eyes finally found me. Who's this? Before I could speak, she did. He's fixing the heater. Again. The lie landed differently this time. Heavier, brittle. I try not to look at her, but my jaw tightened anyway. David's gaze lingered, sharp and knowing. You seem to have a lot of heater trouble lately. No one moved. The air felt thick, too warm for a house that had once been cold. Maya folded her arms, regaining the composed distance she wore like armor. You should go, David. Not until we talk. He brushed past her, water dripping onto the floor, and sat at the edge of the couch like he still owned the space. I heard about the exhibit, he said. Your name's back on the list. Congratulations. She didn't respond. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for a towel. A small movement, almost invisible, but I saw it. He kept talking, his tone smooth, familiar. You always do this, Maya. Pull away when things start looking up. Then find someone to distract you. Her shoulders stiffened. Don't. Then tell me I'm wrong, he said. His eyes flicked toward me again. Tell me this isn't that. I want to step in, to say something, anything, but she spoke first. He's not your business. The words came out sharper than I'd ever heard from her. David looked stunned for a moment, then laughed softly. You're right. He's not. He stood, grabbed his coat, and left without another word. The door shut behind him with a sound that felt final, like a line drawn too late. Silence. Maya stood still, breathing shallowly. I could see the pulse at her throat. You lied, I said quietly. She turned to me, eyes bright with something between fear and anger. You think I wanted him to know? I think you wanted to believe he wouldn't show up. Her lips parted, no defense left. She stepped back, bumping into the table behind her. The motion rattled a glass, sent it rolling to the floor. She bent to catch it, but her hand shook. I caught it first, our fingers brushing. The contact made her flinch, not away, but inward, like the feeling was too much. I shouldn't have called you, she said again. But her voice cracked this time. I stepped closer, close enough to see her eyes fill. Then why did you? She didn't answer. Just closed the space between us until the air went thin. Because I wanted something that wasn't safe, she whispered finally. Her confession hung between us, trembling, fragile, alive, irreversible. And in that moment, both of us knew safety was already gone. The rain had stopped, but the sound of it lingered in the quiet, dripping from the eaves, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat that hadn't decided whether to calm down. Maya stood by the window, her reflection flickering against the glass. I was still near the door, half in, half out, caught between what should happen and what already had. She spoke first. You should go before I make this worse. Her voice was barely a whisper. Worse for who? For both of us. I took a slow step toward her. It already is. That made her look at me. Really look. Her eyes were rimmed with fatigue, but there was no fear left in them. Just honesty, raw and thin. I don't know how to want something without breaking it, she said. And you don't know yet what you'd be giving up. I know what I'm standing in front of, I said. And I'm still here. The distance between us was shrinking without thought. My hand hovered near her arm, but didn't touch. She didn't move away. Her breath trembled, a shiver caught halfway between restraint and release. You'll regret this, she whispered. Probably. We both smiled. Barely, the kind that hurts more than it heals. The space was alive with everything we hadn't said. The heater's soft hum, the smell of rain and old paint, the closeness of two people out of reasons. She reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, but her hand lingered. I caught it without meaning to. Her fingers tightened, then loosened, uncertain. I know, I said again. My voice came out low, rough. I stepped closer until our foreheads touched. Breath to breath, silence between every heartbeat. The air was warm, dizzy with wanting and doubt. You don't have to do this, she murmured. I already did. She laughed, soft, broken, and then she leaned in just enough that I could feel her breath at the corner of my mouth. But she stopped there. The pause was everything, a knife edge between sense and surrender. I don't want to be another mistake, I said. She shook her head, eyes closing. You're not. You're just too late to be easy. I could feel her pulse under my thumb, quick and uneven. For a second, we both leaned in, the world narrowing to heat and silence. But then she pulled back, just barely, just enough. Her hand pressed flat against my chest. You have to go, she said, voice trembling. Before I forget why. I nodded, but neither of us moved. Then, finally, she whispered, thank you. For what? For reminding me I can still feel. I swallowed hard, stepped back once, twice. She didn't follow. When I turned at the door, she was still there, standing in the dim glow, one hand resting on the heater, the other against her heart. And somehow, that felt like the only truth left between us. We both knew what it meant. It was over, but not gone. Weeks passed before I saw her again. I told myself I was over it, that what happened, or almost happened, was something people move on from. But every night, when the rain came, I still thought of that house, of her voice, of the quiet between us that felt more real than most conversations I'd ever had. Then one Saturday afternoon, my phone buzzed. The gallery opens tonight. I kept one seat empty. I almost didn't go, but I did. The small art space downtown was crowded, voices bouncing off white walls. Her name was printed in gold on the entrance card. Maya Layton, Fragments of Warmth. I found her near one of her paintings, speaking softly to someone from the press. She looked lighter somehow, not younger, freer. When she saw me, her expression shifted. A flicker of surprise, then something quieter, warmer. "You came," she said. "You invited me. I wasn't sure you'd say yes." Neither was I. We stood side by side, facing her work, the painting I'd seen half-finished weeks ago. It was complete now. Two figures, half in shadow, half in amber light. The warmth between them wasn't from what they touched. It came from what they didn't. "It's beautiful," I said. She nodded. "It's us." The space between what almost was. Her honesty hit softly, like a pulse beneath skin. We didn't talk for a while. Just looked. The crowd buzzed around us, but the air between us stayed still. Familiar, calm, alive. "I kept thinking," she said finally, "that maybe I'd ruined it. That night. Pushing you away." I smiled faintly. "You didn't." She turned toward me, searching my face. "Then why does it still feel like goodbye?" "Because we both try to end something that never really started," I said. For the first time in a long while, she reached for my hand. Not cautious this time, not hiding it. Her fingers slid between mine, and it felt right. "No pretense, no daño." Just warmth. "You're still young," she said, but it wasn't a warning anymore. It was almost admiration. "And you're still afraid?" I said gently. Her smile was small, real. "Maybe that's what makes it fair." She leaned in, resting her forehead against mine, the way she had that night. But this time, there was no rush, no fear of someone at the door. Just two people standing still long enough to breathe the same air. "I don't know what this is," I whispered. "Neither do I," she said. "But it doesn't have to be wrong." Her thumb brushed against my palm, tracing small circles, grounding me there. Outside, the city hummed, alive and indifferent. Inside, the heater in the corner clicked on, filling the gallery with quiet warmth. She looked up at me once more, steady calm. "Maybe the real heat isn't between us," she said softly. "Maybe it's what keeps bringing us back." I smiled. "Then let's not fight it." And when she finally leaned in, slow, certain, it wasn't about crossing a line anymore. It was about finally standing in the light. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?